Okay, well, why don't we get started? We're right at 2:30 or a little after, and we really appreciate you joining us. I'm Laura Cantrell. I'm the Executive Director of the Coastal Conservation League, and I'm really excited to have this opportunity to bring you a little bit closer to work that we've been doing over the past few months at GrowFood Carolina. So thank you for your interest, and thank you for making time to be with us this afternoon. Now, it's an obvious point that these have been particularly challenging times for everyone. I don't think that any of us imagined that in 2020 we would be dealing with a triple whammy. The ongoing threat of climate change and its impacts on our region with increased flooding and sea level rise and more frequent storms, and a global pandemic that's changing the way we live and work, and the most intense social movement toward more racial equity than we've seen since the 1960s. But as with most crises, I am grateful for unexpected gifts. And one of the gifts that I am grateful for in this instance is the opportunity that we've had through our work at GrowFood Carolina to help address food insecurity for people in our 10 coastal counties while continuing to keep our partner farmers thriving on their farmland. So the goals for this virtual event are threefold. We want to share a few stories about how GrowFood has continued to help farmers, how we've been able to not only help the farmers, but reach out to people in need, and how we plan to continue this work over the long term once we're beyond this pandemic, which of course we all hope happens very soon, and to continue to provide this service to our communities and to our farmers. The great outcomes that we're going to talk about this afternoon would not be possible without the nimbleness, the flexibility, and the resilience of our GrowFood staff team, rockstar staff team, and also donors and supporters like you who make our work possible. So thank you, and again, we appreciate your interest. Once we have shared some information and told some stories, we'll have a chance to take some questions. So if you have questions throughout this, at any time throughout this presentation, you can use the chat box at the bottom of the screen, but you should see it at the bottom of your screen. Type in your question and we'll try to get to as many as we can. Now, before I turn it over to Anthony Mirisciotta, who is our General Manager for GrowFood Carolina, I just want to make sure that everyone has a basic understanding about the Coastal Conservation League and GrowFood Carolina. The Coastal Conservation League was founded in 1989 to protect the natural landscapes, abundant wildlife, clean air, clean water, and quality of life for the South Carolina coastal plain. And in 2011, we started a program called GrowFood Carolina to serve as a local food hub to help protect our state's rapidly disappearing farmland. And to do that by marketing and distributing South Carolina grown produce to restaurants and institutions, mostly in the Charleston area. Since that time, since 2011, our work has grown from working with a small handful of farmers to more than 100 farmers, and we've sent more than $7 million back into the pockets of those local farmers. So you may be wondering, why is a coastal conservation organization, why did we start and continue to run a local food hub? And you may also be wondering, why is a conservation organization getting involved with food insecurity issues? I think the answer is simple, and that this work is squarely within our mission. By continuing our work of helping farmers stay on their land and keeping that land in agricultural production, which was the original intention of GrowFood Carolina in 2011, we are furthering conservation and environmental protections. Good for conservation, it's good for the environment. And now we have an opportunity, and I believe an imperative, to couple that work with the ability to get fresh food to people in our communities who are truly in need, to places where fresh food is rare or non-existent. In doing that, I believe we are creating more resilient communities, resilient neighborhoods, resilient people, and in the course of it, creating more resilient local food systems. And that is squarely within our mission. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony, our GrowFood Carolina General Manager. Anthony?
Thank you, Laura. And thanks for everyone that is joining us on this call today. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us and talk more about the work we're doing and we have done. I'd also like to welcome my colleague, Becca Watson, who is the farm coordinator at GrowFood Carolina. She's joined us today to answer any questions and share comments. She'll also be speaking a little bit later on about her experience and providing some further insights. As Laura shared, our goal at GrowFood Carolina has always been to support small South Carolina farmers by providing them with the tools, the information, the development that they need to be successful, sustainable farmers, in addition to providing the marketing and the sales support that they need. In 2011, when GrowFood Carolina opened the doors, we worked with only 5 local farmers. And now we work with nearly 100 farmers throughout the state of South Carolina. As we all know, our local restaurants took a huge hit from the pandemic. And at GrowFood, we saw a 50% reduction in sales nearly immediately. Overnight, the orders stopped coming in, the phone stopped ringing. And a reflection of that reduction in sales was really a reduction in our support that we were able to provide with growers, a reduction in our purchasing power that we were able to support them with. So that shift in demand really required us to creatively step up and think about new projects and new ways to continue the support to our growers. And we did that immediately by providing food to organizations like Butcher and Bee, who prepared food boxes for workers in the hospitality industry that had lost their jobs due to this pandemic. We also quickly became a provider for the USDA's Farmers to Families program, where we began delivering thousands of food boxes to Charleston area nonprofit partners, such as 180 Place, the Charleston-based shelter that seeks to rehouse people who are homeless, the Humanities Foundation, which provides low-income housing for many people in our community, and Enough Pie, an organization that seeks equitable and just growth in our GrowFood Carolina neighborhoods. And we also began selling food boxes directly to families in our Charleston region. And through all of this, we had to focus and maintain staff and farmer safety as our top priority. We quickly enacted new protocols and procedures to minimize human interaction during this time. We limited our deliveries out to customers, and most of our staff, which they still are, began working from home. We also invited many of you, our donors and supporters, to make gifts so that we could provide fresh local produce to the Lowcountry Food Bank to meet the growing needs of families in our communities. The response to that invitation has been incredible. Generous donors have now given more than $23,000 from April to today. That has allowed us to provide more than 15,000 pounds of fresh food to the food bank. It's really these stories and these connections that make this all so powerful. And before we get into further discussing those, I'd like to share a video to bring in some perspective and bring everybody into the exciting and the energetic process that really goes into packing these food boxes from start to finish. So this video will show you the farmers harvesting the product, it coming to our warehouse, us repacking it in a number of different boxes and outlets, and then distributing out to our communities. And I really wanted to bring everybody in on this process. A lot of these clips were taken this week, most of them towards the end coming from just a distribution that we did at the Freddie Whaley Community Center just yesterday. And this, really shows you the detail that goes into this process, unloading every box by hand, loading boxes by hand with the best of the South Carolina seasonal produce, and packing it up and loading it back in our trucks at the GrowFood warehouse and sending it off to the neighborhoods and communities that need it most. And also, as we get towards the end of the video, the truck heading out of the warehouse and up to Freddie Whaley. This was just yesterday as we unloaded the boxes. And also, to support this food box program, in May of 2020, GrowFood enlisted the help and partnered with a local health and wellness specialist, Weeby Ashley, as well as Dr. O of Arts and Remedies Wellness, to accompany the distributed boxes at each community weekly drop-off and really connect the recipients of these boxes to the food, to teach them exciting things about it, to teach them nutrition, to share recipes. And we're lucky enough today, we have Weeby and Dr. O with us. And before I steal their thunder any further, I'd like to hand it over to them to share a few direct insights into the impact and the power that this program has had. Weeby, Dr. O.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Anthony. Hello, my name is Weeby Ashley. I am a holistic food practitioner and specialist, and my goal is to teach people how to use plant-based foods as medicine, how to heal with plant-based foods. Our focus at Arts and Remedies is to go into our communities, go into the community here in Charleston, and just to educate and teach people how to use food correctly. And we do that by doing recipes, classes. The key is education. And we find ourselves being a part of this great project, this great program, educating the community on how to use the fresh produce that are in the boxes. And we do that by recipes and giving out samples. And they are excited to be learning new ways of how to prepare food. One example, a lot of the people that's receiving the food never had kale before. They thought kale was for decoration. And so we did some kale chips for them, put some nutritional yeast there to give it a cheesy taste, to just give them some alternatives of substitutes from non-dairy items to plant-based items. So we are, like I said, we're excited to be a part of this program, and the key is education and just getting the word out that, you can heal with plant-based foods. Dr. O?
Yeah. So one of the, sorry, I'm looking at the, hey, Al. My name is Dr., they call me Dr. O. My name is Adeo Funian, and I'm an anthropologist. And my interest in this project and doing this community work is a part of my anthropology work, in that I was trained to engage the community in various ways. In this opportunity, I'm engaging people in learning how to eat, what to eat, and I agree with Laura that we need to maximize this opportunity. And though we find ourselves in this opportunity through daunting situations that Laura has already described, it is indeed a great opportunity for people who perhaps ordinarily might not have come together on missions such as this that have been drawn together. And so why do we at Arts and Remedy, and well, first let me say that Arts and Remedy is a sister organization of another group that we belong to, Color Society. And but our mission is to be able to go into communities, particularly our community here in Charleston, and engage people and inform people about various things that go on in our community. But this opportunity gives me a personal opportunity to talk about food in ways that I've been wanting to talk about food here locally, but ways that I've been talking about food in my own life for the last 40 years. And I think that food is medicine, as Weeby suggested, you know, and people are sick largely, I believe, because of how they eat. Most people eat processed food. Most people don't eat food that come directly from farms. And you may be surprised to know that in communities of Black people, children don't even know that food grow on farms. They think that food grow on those trucks that deliver them to the supermarket. And some of the communities that we service, they don't have grocery stores anymore. Grocery stores have moved out. So what they have are convenience stores that largely sell potato chips, beer, and sodas, and things that people buy conveniently. So those people diet on those types of foods. So this opportunity to bring food into the community is critical. And one way of doing that is to create food outlets. And that's what GrowFood is supporting, creating food outlets in the community.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. No, thanks so much. And you know, this program and these efforts wouldn't be the same without you guys. So thank you so much for being here and partnering with us, you know, recently and hopefully far into the future. And also, you know, for me personally, it's just been extremely powerful to be part of these efforts and see the power of fresh produce in these communities and neighborhoods and really getting out there and impacting, you know, the folks that need this food and, you know, the people that haven't really experienced it before, as Dr. O said. So it's been great. And I also wanted to get into a little bit more about our farmers. The reason why GrowFood was started was to support our local farming economy and helping farmers to stay on their land. Since the start of the pandemic, I or a member of my staff at GrowFood have been in very close communication with all of our farmers. And in very similar ways and efforts to what GrowFood is doing, we are hearing that farmers are reaching out to their hyper-local communities and finding creative ways to continue to bring in revenue and sell what is coming out of the field. And we also hear stories of overwhelming gratitude from our farmers to really appreciate the efforts that we have done since this all began. And all of these creative efforts, everything that we've done and actively been a part of at GrowFood, they have allowed our sales to return to the pre-COVID levels at this point. And Becca, who I mentioned earlier, Becca Watson is our farm coordinator. And I'd really like to just hand it over to her and invite her to say a few things about what she is hearing from the farmers day to day and share some insights and stories that she has been hearing recently. Becca?
Thanks so much, Anthony, and hello to everyone. One of the ways that we assist farmers at GrowFood is through crop planning. We do this twice a year, and this is the process where we sit down with growers and discuss what products we would like to see from them in the upcoming season. It's a way for us to ensure diversified inventory, and it's a way that we can commit products so that growers know that they have a place to go with their crops. We finished crop planting in January of this year, and then the pandemic hit in March. So we had to take a reactive approach and figure out how we were going to move product that we had already planned for. Growers had purchased seed and planted crops for the upcoming season, and we didn't know how COVID was going to, impact our market. So, but we quickly found out and felt this impact as restaurants started to close their doors, and we had to get creative. Ultimately, we were able to pivot and redirect product from into other markets, and we use a couple of different approaches to do that. For example, we have an established lettuce program with 2 producers where most of the products sold were sold and marketed to restaurants. We had to get creative. We were able to include both types of lettuces in our direct-to-consumer GrowFood box that we sold to our local community each week. This allowed us to fulfill our commitments with these growers and for us to continue to move their product. Jared Kimbler from Curious Farms has told us countless times that his farm would not be operating today and throughout this pandemic if it were not for GrowFood and our ability to continue to move his lettuce. Before COVID, we had a very robust egg program where the majority of eggs were being packed in bulk and sold to restaurants. As soon as restaurants started to close their doors, we felt the immediate impact on our egg program. We realized if we didn't pivot, we would quickly find ourselves sitting on a lot of expired eggs. So we decided to include eggs in our direct-to-consumer GrowFood box. This turned out to be a huge success. The demand for local protein was extremely high as shelves were being emptied in the grocery stores. Not only did we help fill the void of the grocery store shelves in some way, we were also able to continue to move product and stay on top of our egg program as best we could. So we still don't know exactly what the future holds, but we're trying to take a more proactive approach for the fall of 2020 and spring of 2021. We feel that we've done a great job of reacting, supporting our growers, and feeding our communities up until this point. And now we're focused on the future. We're trying to determine how we can best serve farmers and our community looking forward. Our goal is to provide certainty and stability for our growers in these uncertain times. And Anthony and Nancy will talk about how we plan to do that a little later. But I want to shift gears a little bit. And another grower that I've had many conversations with, and that is here with us today, is Joey Mcquaid from Sylvan Farms in Saluda, South Carolina. Joey is an organic vegetable producer that we've been working with for a couple of years, and he also produces pasture-raised beef and pork. So I'm going to turn it over to Joey, and I'll let him introduce himself and tell more about his farm. And he's also going to talk about his experiences this past year and how they've dealt with the challenges on the farm during this pandemic. So Joey, I'll leave it to you.
Well, I appreciate it, Becca. Hi, I'm Joey with Sylvan Farm. A little background about myself and the farm. I was raised in Mount Pleasant, moved to Los Angeles where I had a furniture and a pottery store. And while a lot of people in LA were growing marijuana, my wife and I, we grew heirloom tomatoes on the roof of our furniture store. And that's really where the love for tomatoes and farming began. I promised my wife that eventually we'd get back to the East Coast. And after we had a son, we decided it was time. We would search for land on Zillow every night. And we found a tract of land in Saluda, which we fell in love with, and her family lived in Israel, which is very close by. So we hopped the flight. We visited the land and stayed in love with it, even though it was a little overgrown. We ended up buying the land, even though all of our friends thought we were crazy to move from LA to start farming. But since then, we've expanded. We've added a lot more land. We've added a packing building. We now have 8 full-time employees and 3 part-time that help with all our pigs and our cows, chickens, and our organic produce. With that being said, farming has always been an adventure. It's always been tough. It's long hours. But this pandemic, it's been a roller coaster. It's really it's been crazy. There's nothing, we've never experienced anything like it. Very, very early on in the pandemic, everybody noticed, there was a huge run on meat and eggs, of course, toilet paper and everything else. And we sold through all our meat and eggs just within a few weeks. Of course, our chickens, they just couldn't keep up with the egg demand. But we were lucky we were able to take animals to the processor where we could restock our freezer and try to keep up with demand. But very quickly, shortly after, our processor informed us that he was concerned about someone in the processing facility coming down with COVID-19, and went ahead and shut his doors, and we ended up getting stuck with a number of hogs and cattle and had nowhere really to go with them. We ended up selling quite a bit just at the livestock market, which was tough because there's very little margin. We actually lost quite a bit of money, but it's better to sell than to keep feeding the animals. We also, once a restaurant shut their doors, about a week later, we got a call from Fresh Point, which is a Cisco company, which another distributor that we sell to. They canceled all their produce orders with us, and that was a lot of business for us. A few days after that, I received a call from Becca, and I was so scared that GrowFood was going to follow suit, and I just didn't know what we were going to do. But Alden, she was upbeat and was talking about plans to provide baskets to the public and other ideas that would keep supporting us as farmers and keep our produce moving. We began shipping our greens to GrowFoods, and that kept us going. We couldn't keep up with the eggs. We didn't have the meat to sell, and I was scared, and all of our employees were scared. There was, our family depends on it, and their families do as well. But GrowFood, the orders kept coming, and anyway, we're really blessed. It's pandemic, like I said, it's just been a roller coaster. As we're starting fall planning, right now we're starting to plant seeds, for the seedlings to plant for fall vegetables. And with the COVID cases on the rise, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, and we don't know how to plan for it. It's very difficult. And through the whole pandemic so far, the only thing that's been really stable for us and has kept us afloat has been GrowFood and their creativity and their willingness to support, and care for the farmers. And for that, I'm extremely grateful, and so is my family. So anyway, thank you very much. With that, anyway, I'll be around for a little bit if there's any questions at all. I'll be on here for just a little while, but thank you, GrowFood, and thank you, everybody else.
Thank you, Joey.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. Thanks for all your efforts on the farm, for sure, and thanks for joining us today. And if anybody needs to really experience some positivity, then schedule an appointment with Joey to go up and see his piglets sometimes running through the field. So as Joey highlighted, and the theme throughout the pandemic for me has, and the biggest question has kind of been just what's next. We never really seem to catch up to that what's next moment, but we always need to plan and think ahead. And for the time being, when we sit here today, the restaurants have come back. We're not sure how long that's going to last or what's going to happen into the future, but at GrowFood, we have seen increasing sales from restaurants, which is great. And while we don't want to stop these sales or limit them to restaurants, institutions, or grocery stores, now that we have started serving families in our community as well as supporting the farmers, we want to find a way to continue past the time when the government funding ends, which is likely to end or looking like, sometime wrapping up around August, potentially into September. And as Joey highlighted and Becca as well, we really need to look towards the future and plan for what's next. And we need to do this not only because there is a huge need, as Joey highlighted, to support our farmers, You know, Joey just highlighted one story. You know, there's 100, there's 1,000 more throughout the state and nationally of people wondering what's next and planning for the future. So in addition to supporting our farmers, the need for food in our communities is great. Recipients of these food boxes have shared that, you know, they've never had access to this fresh food before. And you heard from Dr. O and Weeby today, just, you know, what this food means in these communities and what we're doing to drive that change. People living all around our state, in our communities, and close to our warehouse at GrowFood don't know where their next meal is going to come from, and we have the ability to change that. While restaurant and retail sales are important for the sustainability of this organization, we believe that we can do more. And we want to explore new ways to increase the capacity of our warehouse and continue to grow and develop with our community partners that are ready and willing to work with us. We want to continue to serve those in our community once all of these funding options end. And now I feel like we're in a really great place to reflect over the course of the past few months, all of the programs and efforts that we've been involved in, and really look forward to creating a great program that promotes a healthy food system and also supports our farmers and our network of farmers in a great way. We need a program that maximizes benefit for everyone involved, everyone that is on this call and around the table here today. And, you know, the part that I'm most excited about, as Becca highlighted, is really having the ability to look ahead and provide certainty and plan with our growers. You know, farmers are always 1 to 2 seasons, 3 seasons ahead. So we need to start looking ahead in order to plan for a secure food system. As Joey highlighted, you know, no one knows what's happening. No one knows what to grow, if there's going to be markets for what they grow and produce and plant. And we really need to get ahead of that and make sure that there is food in our communities and throughout our food system, you know, well into the future. And now I'd like to invite Nancy Apple, our Director of Development, to add a few more specific details about the Soil to Sustenance fundraising effort that we are actively involved in.
Thanks, Anthony. As you can see, we're all really excited, and Anthony and I have been working together for the last couple of weeks to come up with a program that will, as Anthony said, keep this program going after the government funding ends sometime in August. And we've developed a budget just a little over $210,000 that will provide over 5,000 food boxes to people in need and support our farmers for the next year. You know, what we can do is reach out to the people who have been so generous and have supported us for so long and see if we can make this work. See if we can continue a program to feed the people in our community who need this fresh produce and to support our farmers. So we started fundraising on June 15th, and our fundraising goal is just over, as I said, just over $210,000, and we want to finish that goal by the end of July so that we can do this crop planning and make sure that we have enough supply to fill these boxes, while at the same time having enough food to fill the orders from the restaurants and institutions. And so far, it's only June 30th, but we've already raised $60,000 toward this goal, and we're confident that we will reach that goal, and are very eager to talk with more people about how to make a difference and how to keep a program like this going over the next year. So I'm gonna turn it over back to Laura, who's going to help us wrap up, and then we'll start some questions.
Great, thank you, Nancy, and thanks to all my colleagues for your remarks today. I think you can tell from the folks that you've heard from that we are excited. We're passionate about this work. We're committed to continuing to support our farmers and people in need by doing what needs to be done and listening to our partners to find ever creative solutions. We hope that you're interested in our work, and we're inspired to continue and seek your support for our work. So I think we're going to put up our contact information. We'll be reaching out. We really appreciate you making the time to hear our stories and hear our passion and commitment for continuing this work. We're hopeful that we'll be able to garner the resources that will enable us to continue beyond August, as Anthony was mentioning. So we have time for some questions. Let me see, I think we've gotten a few, at least a couple of questions. So bear with me while I try to take a look at that. We've had one question from Cassandra, who says that she's in Beaufort and she's wondering if there are any plans to expand into that area. Anthony, do you want to describe how the work at GrowFood Carolina connects to different geographies and what we may have in mind in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I think on the aggregation side, we do have a few partner farmers in the Beaufort area. So there is support that would be extended to them through programs as we've discussed today. So on that side of it, there's that piece from the sourcing and farmer support. We also would indirectly be getting a lot of these food boxes to the Beaufort area, as well as the 10 coastal counties in South Carolina through the Low Country Food Bank. So targeting the neighborhoods and communities throughout those 10 coastal counties that need food the most. So it's quite possible that these boxes and these efforts are making their way into Beaufort, but we are not directly distributing or having any distribution sites in that area. We've really found that the need is so great just within our immediate Charleston area that I think we still have a lot of work to do there before we start direct efforts into the Beaufort area. But once we get a more established foundation here in Charleston, I do think that we could absolutely expand that net.
Great, and just to underscore a couple of things that Anthony said just in that response and also in his earlier remarks, we thought, and Anthony and his team thought, that it was really important that we start this process in a responsible way and to not have the need outstrip our capacity to deliver. And the lessons that we've learned in the last 4 months and our ability to benefit from what we're learning and improve and expand as we go is, I believe, absolutely the right way to do it. So we're, you know, it is an experiment, and we're excited to keep the experiment going and expand it. Let's see, I think we might have another question. Does the Coastal Conservation League earn a percentage of the sale price of the direct-to-consumer food boxes? Anthony, you want to take that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that program in particular and our model in general is set up that GrowFood takes 20% of the total sale price from that product. So whether it's going to a restaurant, a retail outlet, or into our boxes, 80% of that price would be returned to the grower. And we have seen in our box packing efforts kind of the average price of those products going into the boxes being higher than they normally would, just off of the box cost and how that's all working out. So the growers are ultimately getting a little bit higher pricing, higher than average pricing back to them. But to cover our extensive costs with the box packing and also the physical cost of the box itself, we are absorbing 20% on that cost to keep it all moving forward.
And another question is, how can I help? And thank you for that question. That's easy. Reach out to Nancy or to Anthony. You can see their contact information on the slide, or you can respond to the invitation to this webinar that you received. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk about this further. All right. Any other questions? I don't see any other questions. All right, well, why don't we wrap up, and we won't take any more of your time. But again, thank you so much for your interest. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you will continue to be with us as we expand this exciting work. Have a great afternoon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.